Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum, doctor.
Walaikum assalam. Can you guys hear me and see me okay?
Yes, you're
Yes.
fine. So the interview we want to do, it's about academic stress. That's the topic. I just want to ask you like 10 questions. So like, if you when you answer, just like you be free to like think about your answer before you answer. Like get a more elaborated answer if you want to.
Okay.
So so the first question is what is academic stress?
Okay. So academic stress, it's a broad kind of statement or question. So it depends which kind of academic setting you're in. So it can mean, for school, college, university, work. And essentially, what it says on the tin. So academic means any kind of academic work, and stress is related to that. So I guess you guys are in school. So I don't know if you're doing A levels or any kind of exams. So the academic stress related to your situation would be your school exams. For me, as a psychiatrist, as a doctor, academic stress relates to kind of any academic work that I do, whether that's with research or postgraduate examinations. I guess that's kind of what my understanding would be.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for the answer. My next question was, what are the main causes of academic stress in students?
In students, so I guess that's relating to you guys because you're students. The main causes would be exams. So from my experience going through schooling, high school myself, and obviously seeing patients as well, as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, most of the stress related to students is exams. So these are high risk or high stressful periods leading up to exams during revision. That would be the major cause of academic stress. The other thing also is coursework. So any coursework that you have to complete can also cause academic stress. And generally speaking, some students have a predisposition in terms of their personality to be more stressed. So that can also be a cause, depending on each individual's personality. The home environment, so some parents are more focused on education, and that can cause student stress as well because they have, to meet the demands of their parents, and they set very high standards for themselves. So if they fall below those standards, they can experience stress.
Okay. My next question was, what are the ways students can prevent having a lot of academic stress in the future if they currently do not suffer from it?
Yeah, so it's a good question. There are many ways. So it's really important to have a balanced life. Important kind of advice would be to exercise. So when we exercise, we release endorphins, which are naturally occurring kind of neurotransmitters, hormones, which improve our mood and well-being. So any activity related to improving well-being, so that would be exercise, ensuring that you regularly exercise. It doesn't have to mean just going to the gym, any kind of sport that you enjoy as a student, whether that's football, cricket, whatever, swimming, any kind of regular physical exercise is really important. Also, making sure you have like time for yourself during times of stress, whether that's socializing with friends, watching whatever you enjoy, that's important. Also, being able to communicate with somebody that you trust, whether that's friends or family, to express, if you're stressed for any situation related to school, to share that. And also your diet. So what I find is a lot of students, they have a very poor diet, eating a lot of junk food. That can worsen stress. So ensuring that you have a healthy, balanced diet is very important.
Okay, thank you, doctor. My next question was, if a student is already facing a lot of academic stress, then how should they deal with it or like manage it?
Yeah, so I guess that's probably linked to the last answer. The first thing is if you're dealing with stress, you have to share that you're dealing with stress. Many students, they develop depression or anxiety because they don't share. So what we know is if you keep your feelings bottled up inside, you're more likely to suffer from mental illness and distress, and that can lead to severe depression. and kind of shutting down in terms of your functioning. So it's very important to share that you're stressed and you're feeling down or anxious, so that you can be supported. There are many ways. So you can share with family, or in most schools, they will have like a pastoral person or somebody responsible for looking after the mental well-being of students. So you should share with them, and also your teachers if you're feeling under stress or under pressure. So sharing is really important in communicating any distress. And as I mentioned earlier, to relieve stress, exercise, diet is very important.
Okay, thank you. My next question was, students these days are quite unopen and reserved regarding discussing their academic stress with their teachers or parents. So how can parents or teachers spot the signs of academic stress in students to intervene and try to help them?
Yeah, so parents and teachers have an important role in recognizing this. First of all, it is to be aware that students are going through stress times, like I mentioned earlier, usually during exam times, that's the highest peak of stress. So to be able to recognize and validate that students may be going through this, to regularly ask, if you're a parent to your child, are you feeling okay? How are you feeling about exams? And so communication is really important. As teachers, recognizing any change in personality. So if a student is an extrovert, he's usually, engaging in class and then becomes isolated and quiet, that can be a sign. Any kind of change in personality. So for teachers and parents, it's important for them to be vigilant about students, and the key is communicate with them, and regularly touch base with them to see how they're feeling.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. My next question was, what role do you think social media or technology in general has on the amount of academic stress faced by students?
I think social media, there's probably is a double-edged sword, so it has positives and negatives. So in terms of the negatives, what you mentioned, a lot of people now post everything on social media, whether that's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that can lead to other people feeling not as good about themselves. So for example, if somebody does very well in an exam and they post about it, somebody else who didn't do so well, because people are spending so much time on social media and comparing themselves to other people, not just academically, but how they look physically, etc., and how much money they have. That can make students suffer. The other thing is also you can potentially have bullying as well. So if somebody in your peer group hasn't done very well academically, they can be bullied through social media. And there's a lot now in terms of advice on recognizing signs of bullying and sharing again with people that you care about. But then there's also positives. So positives, that there are lots of resources that people can access through social media to deal with stress. And you have kind of advocacy and health education campaigns that can be used through social media to give a message to students about looking after themselves and to deal with stress.
Okay. My next question was, is it possible for the feeling of academic stress to get ingrained into students' minds and then just not go away, even when they go into their professional lives until they go see a doctor to get it treated?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, it can be a personality issue. So if you're used to feeling stressed, more stressed than other people, that can become a difficult issue to deal with in adult life. Naturally, a bit of anxiety is actually good for us as human beings, because it kind of can push us not to procrastinate and to do tasks that we need to do. But when it becomes excessive and it starts impairing your functioning, whether that's at school or in your adult life, then that becomes an issue. So it's important to recognize each individual themselves, how much stress they can deal with, and if they're not able to deal with that stress, to seek help as early as possible. And generally speaking, in kind of mental health, we always advocate for early intervention. The earlier you intervene, the better the prognosis. So if you don't deal with your inability to deal with stress as a student, that can impact your adult life.
Okay, thank you. My next question was, what can we collectively do as a society to have a future with less academic stress for students?
So you need to have like a holistic and systematic approach. The first thing is education. So not every student kind of has the same learning methods. So we know some students prefer vocational kind of courses. So what that means is more hands-on practical, and other students are more academic in the sense that they, reading books and memorizing things. So first of all, we as a society, we need to recognize that students have different methods of learning and respond differently. Not every student is the same. So we need to be flexible in our education system to ensure that all types of learners, some people prefer visual learning, some people prefer hands-on practical learning, and other people, prefer the traditional didactic kind of teaching. So to have a flexibility in our education system to ensure that we meet the needs of all different types of students. The other thing also is to not put too much pressure on students, to encourage them to pursue what they're interested in and what they're passionate about. But a lot of times students are forced into doing things that they don't want, and then that can cause anxiety and depression. And then, like I mentioned earlier, public health and education campaigns to ensure, and I guess this is what you guys are doing today, interviewing me to talk about these things, because as you raise awareness, then people are more likely to develop appropriate interventions and strategies to deal with this issue.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. These were all of the questions we had. So
Okay,
our questions are done. Thank you for your time.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for taking out the time to
Yeah.
tell the questions. The
Okay,
answers.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, guys.
Jazakallah.
All right, take
Thank
care.
you.
Assalamu
You too.
alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.